Welcome back to Credit Nerdy. It's your boy Genius, presented to you by Kyron Financial. As we have been doing a series of video on disputing, there's a very important need for us to really understand what happens when you do a dispute. In this video, I want to help you to be able to respond to both creditors and the credit bureaus when you file a dispute, what you need to really understand and what you need to do. What I want to speak to you concerning in the disputing process, when you have an account, right, and there is issues with the account that you need to dispute. Sometimes the account might have one issue in terms of error, and sometimes it might have multiple errors. When you file a dispute, there is certain protection that is offered to the creditor and to the credit bureau so that people don't really abuse the system or really unnecessarily flood them with information or disputes that are not credible. So in the FCRA, it gives them a certain amount of ways that they can respond to you when you file a dispute, right? They can respond that it's frivolous or irrelevant and reject your dispute and don't have to conduct any investigation concerning that dispute that you submitted. That is what the bureau can do. If you go directly to the creditor can also do that. But if you go to the bureau and the bureau did not mark it as frivolous or irrelevant and they forward it to the creditor has to actually do the investigation of the dispute. Creditor, once it comes from the credit bureau to them, because when you file a dispute with the credit bureau, within 5 days of you filing that dispute, they have to notify the creditor or the data furnisher that you are disputing the information that is in the credit report. Once the credit bureau did not mark the dispute as frivolous or irrelevant within that 5-day period before they send it to them, then the furnisher cannot reject it as frivolous or irrelevant. But if you send it directly to them, they can actually do that. But they have to actually state to you when they do that why they deem it frivolous or irrelevant and what information you need to supply them in order for them to take the dispute and follow through with a reasonable investigation. Because you have a right to dispute anything that's on your credit report, and they cannot deny you the right when you dispute it. But if it is frivolous or irrelevant, then they can actually reject it. But they must tell you, they can't just say frivolous or irrelevant and that's it. They must tell you why they deem it to be that way, and they also must share with you what information you need to provide them in order for them to actually do the investigation and deal with the dispute that you are supplying. Now, if you do a dispute up front, and when you do the dispute, they come back and say, okay, we verify it, or we fix the problem that you specify or modify, and they can modify it or update the account as well when you send in a dispute. And that is why I said in previous videos, you want to be specific with what your issue is, but not too specific where they can modify the account, because if you're looking for a deletion, they can modify or correct the information that is not accurate and the account remains. But when you actually sometimes give enough information that warrants them investigating it, they will have to do investigation. You're more likely sometimes not to get an answer from them saying that they have modified or updated it and the account remains. Because if you're looking for deletion, sometimes you're not looking for deletion, sometimes you're looking for modification or update. You can always specify with specificity and clarity, full clarity, what you are actually looking for, and they will actually do that. But once you're looking for deletion, sometimes you have to allow them to work, and sometimes if you don't give them the information upfront, but at least give them enough information where they need to do some work, then you're more likely to get it deleted. But you can't be too vague to the point where they can deem your dispute as being frivolous or irrelevant, because once it's not clear and it's too vague, that gives them leverage to market that way, and they would be okay under the law. Once you now send in the dispute, the question becomes, seeing that they are able to mark a dispute as being irrelevant or mark a dispute as being frivolous, there's a third way that they can do the dispute, mark it, and you don't get any investigation from them. Is if you have submitted the dispute before and they have given you an answer to the dispute, and if you submit the same information to the dispute, again, they can respond to you by saying, there's no need for us to further investigate this because we have previously done an investigation and we have given you the result, and this is actually the same thing you're asking us to do that we have already done, so we are not going to follow up. We stick to the conclusion that we have reached on your previous dispute, and they don't do any dispute, right? They are able to do that as well. So those are the three ways that they can respond to you off the top that gets you actually nowhere, and they don't have to actually do any deep digging once you have disputed it before and they have come to the conclusion that they have done the sufficient due diligence or reasonable investigation, and it has shown them that the conclusion that they have reached is both compliant with the FCRA and also meets what a reasonable investigation is. And if you notice, I keep using the word reasonable investigation, reasonable procedures, because those are the legal terms that once they violate them, they become liable and you can get remedy for those liabilities. Why is that information that I give you just now important? When you are doing a dispute, if the account has multiple errors, seeing that they have the opportunity, once you dispute it first, they can then come back again and say to you that we have not, we don't see it necessary for us to do a further investigation and just don't follow up with your investigation. This is why it's important why I gave you that information. If the account has multiple errors in it, don't point out all the errors in your first dispute. Only point out a few of the errors, so that if they don't delete it and it come back as being verified, you can then in your second round add the other errors. Once you add the other errors, they can then say from the previous dispute that they have completed the investigation and there's no need to do the second one because you have added new information. So that gives you leverage in going back if you don't get the result that you need at first. If you have additional information again that can be added and you don't get the result in the second round, then in the third round you add the other information. So it gives you a safeguard from them just rejecting your dispute and using the cry that they have produced a reasonable investigation and they don't need to do follow-up. So you don't disclose every single error that you see at first if you want to give yourself leverage in following up with a dispute, right? If you're going to take it to them from a legal perspective and you're going to do a legal follow-up or go arbitration or something like that, then list all the errors that is in the account at one time. Be as detailed as possible. If you need to do 5, 6, 7, 8 page, you do the 5, 6, 7, 8 page. Because you know that you're going to go the legal route and you need to have all the evidence that you actually have, that you address all the errors that was there and they refused to actually fix it. So that is how, that is something that you need to know when you're doing a dispute. Because they are able to respond to you in certain ways, you want to make sure you protect yourself, that you don't put yourself in a position where they can just reject your dispute after they deem it that it is verified, you are modified, are updated. You don't want, when you go back, they can use the leeway that the law gives them to tell you that they have already completed a reasonable investigation and there is no need for them to actually address what you're asking, because they have given it. So you actually just give them some of the errors and hold on for the next round, and then you drop the others in the next round. And if there's more, you drop the others in the third round. Because as I said, don't give up or lose heart when you do your dispute. These people are violating us every day, and they are not interested in fixing it once it's going against their business interest. We are not their customers. We are their products, both the corporation and the credit bureaus. We, the credit bureaus, the corporations, and those who use consumer reports are their customers. And we know that the credit reporting agencies parrot all the time to what the creditors tell them. They're biased towards data furnishers and creditors against consumers. So make sure that you understand that. Don't give up. Don't let them overwhelm you. There's a series of videos that I have here on disputing. I think this is the third one in it, or the fourth one in it. Please make sure that you listen and you will learn how you need to answer when you actually get certain response. I hope this video was helpful. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Ironic Financial Credit Nerdery. Your boy Genius. Peace.